This episode of the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour is sponsored by the law offices of Alfred Guillaume III, a boutique criminal defense firm located in Washington, D.C. The firm specializes in defending federal criminal cases. You can learn more about the firm by visiting our website at guillaumelaw.com. That's GUILLAUME law.com. Welcome to part one of my interview with Dr. Ray Crawford, the Performance Improvement Officer of the Department of Education. Dr. Crawford is the first non-lawyer to sit down for an interview on the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour, and we are excited. He and I discussed many topics that are relevant, whether you went to college, graduate, or law school a long time ago like me, or find yourselves in the recent trenches with student loans. He and I talk strategies on student loan repayment and other topics in the education space. And as an added bonus, Ray gives us an original spoken word poem. You do not want to miss it. So sit back, relax, and I'll catch you on the B-side. Welcome to another edition of the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. I'm excited for many reasons. One, because my good friend Dr. Ray Crawford is with us.
All right.
And two, because he is the first non-lawyer to appear on the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. I'm super excited, man. I'm so tired of lawyers. Right?
We need them. We need them.
We do, but thank you so much for helping us pivot to the larger community of professionals and intelligent men and women that listen to this show and that appear on this show.
Definitely.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Dr. Ray Crawford, you need no introduction to me, but I want to let the larger audience know who you are. You are the Performance Improvement Officer for the Department of Education of the United States of America.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. The role is something that I have, I guess, risen to. I started at the Department of Education as the Safety and Facilities Director.
So you are, but no downplay it now. You
so it was a climb. It was a climb.
You have climbed the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been at the Department of Education?
17 years.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're an educator. This is something that I hold dear in my heart because my parents both are educators. My grandmother was an educator. And God bless you for being an educator and
Thank you.
Doing what you do. And please tell us what that is.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So the Performance Improvement Officer, there's a PIO, so to speak, in every federal agency. And so their responsibilities are making sure that we're compliant with Circular A11, Part 6. I'm with lawyers,
right. Wow.
so I want to make sure I speak that legalese, right?
We're regular folks.
Yeah. Right. But you understand. So there is a legislative aspect to performance improvement officers being in every agency, and their function is to ensure that agencies are performing, that we're doing what we state we're going to do in our mission, that we're capturing. I manage the strategic plan. I manage all the data that substantiates the strategic plan.
For the entire department?
For the entire department.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the Department of Education, what is its mandate? What does the Department of Education do for people who may not know?
Well, the main mission is to execute against policy from Congress and both, policy that's drafted by the president. But our function is to basically fund education in states, local education agencies. We support high needs communities and getting the resources that they need to then transfer those resources into academic excellence, preferably.
Exactly.
And in the season that we're in right now, our task is gargantuan. So we're trying to make sure people get back from COVID in such a way where children are at pre-2019 levels and beyond. And there's a hill to climb there. So.
Are you focused strictly on elementary education at the department, or is your focus that, or you are on all levels of education?
Yes, that's a great question. We have about 18 offices in the department, and we're focused on everything from P through 12, pre-K, through the 12th grade, and post-secondary education, so higher ed. Federal student aid, but the whole loan forgiveness and loan.
Do you know the president? Because I need to talk to him.
I do not know the president.
Just say you do, man. Nobody's gonna check you on that.
Yeah, but I mean, I can walk through public student loan forgiveness and all that. I can walk through it. Because that's part of what we do, right? We've given out, a tremendous amount of money over the last year in a program that was almost defunct prior to that.
Wow.
So obviously
that's really quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it has been.
And, this is an issue that's near and dear to many people who have advanced degrees. We're going to talk about your advanced degrees in your alma mater, HU.
You know.
All right, we had to go there quick. We had to get there quick. But many people, myself included, have struggled to pay student loans in the course of their life, and after they've graduated. You think you go to school, you're gonna get this job paying all this money, but then you get that first bill, right, from whatever
6 months from when you depart, whether you got a degree or not.
Exactly. And I think that's a story that's relatable to so many people. So can you speak about what is happening now with respect to student loans? And I just started paying mine again, so I guess.
Yeah, there was a forbearance for several years based on the CARES Act legislation that came out during the Trump administration, actually, to help support people during the COVID-19 crisis.
It was much appreciated.
Yeah, and so now, as of October, I think we went back into repayment. So I don't speak officially on any of that, but there are programs on studentaid.gov to walk people through how to understand financial aid. I do a lot of, external discussions about how people can really be thinking about aid before they get into college. Scholarships.
I wish I had that discussion and knowledge.
Well, a lot of families in our community aren't doing that, right? There's an expectation to go. Right. Even when people talk to me, they're like, where can I get the money? Well, there's a lot of money to research. What we do in the government is we give out loans or grants. Grants are based on someone's income level, your family's income level. Some people that we know in our very close-knit community are not going to be able to get any of those grants. And so then they go into the area of loans. But the government doesn't give you a full loan for some of the tuition rates at some of the universities people want to attend. So then you have to supplement that either through personal funding or external loans.
Right. I had external loans. I went to law school. I had both, actually, because the government didn't cover the entire expense.
No,
I didn't have any parental help. Well, I had parental help, but not to the level that I would cover all the tuition.
Oh no! When I went to grad school, my parents was like, "Enjoy yourself."
Right, and we did enjoy ourselves.
We didn't choose that path for you. We supported you in undergrad, but
exactly that's the discussion that. And I'm glad to hear you say that, because that was the same discussion in my household as well. My parents, and I was lucky because not everybody's parents pay for college. My parents paid for college, but when I graduated and I went on to another degree, when I went to get a law degree, I was on my own. Yeah. And I remember it's been about 20 years, but it was so difficult for me to navigate the terrain at the time. I would love for you to just point us in the direction of where someone who's in undergrad thinking of going to law school or any professional school would look, and what resources are available to those persons. Yeah. So studentaid.gov is a website. It's a federal website. There, even before you get into undergrad, and even as young as people in middle school, there are checklists we have for families to start to think about what is the cost of education. And the thing that people don't think about, we know this because the cost of tuition is not, the cost of attendance is not the cost of tuition. Correct. So the tuition is a price, but then living expenses, other expenses, travel if you are far away from home. So trying to capture that entire amount is something that people need to do, and they need to have real strong conversations in their household about what is the funding that's possibly available, or what type of loan profile do they want to take out. Like the argument with the student loan crisis for me is that people accepted these loans. There's a signature that you put on a promissory note that says that you understand this. Yeah, but I signed it, but I didn't mean it. But. There it is, though. 18, 19, 21, 25. You're not really looking at I had no idea. The debt you're putting yourself in, because we're not as families in conversations about what debt looks like, how that impacts your credit score. Exactly. If you don't pay it, what that will do to possible acquisition of things such as cars, houses later. And so these are the conversations folks should be in. And especially in the African American community. Definitely. And even when you're in undergrad, you can be looking for money. I did work study. I did all the things, internships. I got as much money as I could get through those vehicles. And then when I went to grad school, I ended up getting a stipend based on my grades and then tuition remission. So I was able to work through the institution. You have smart folks here on the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. Well, you got to work through the institution, right? And so that's the one piece I would say for anybody in undergrad. What does your institution offer? Have you been to the financial aid office and sat down, and do they know you? Like, regardless of whether you got money right now, people in the financial aid office should know you. They should know your face. Great advice. They should be, and because they can direct you to resources that are tied to either the state. If you're in a private institution, there are resources that are in the private institution. And those are the things you should be looking for outside of federal loans. There's grant programs out there. If we're thinking about UNCF, think about Thurgood Marshall. If you're an HBCU,
So there's so much money out there that people can grab hold of. But the one thing I want to put a pin in is that folks want money, they don't want to work for it.
Okay.
Like you got to write,
Right.
you got to do something to get the funding, and that's the hard part for many of our folks.
What would you suggest folks do other than what you suggested? Is there anything else? Is there a magic formula? I know the answer is probably no.
No, well, not a magic formula, but so if we're looking at pre-college, so if you're not in undergrad, then you need to be looking at every possible resource there is. Churches, 7-Eleven, Walmart, all these places have money. So
to give to students to go to college.
Wow, right? There was billions of dollars left on the table last year because people did not access that money, right?
Billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars left on the table because people didn't access it. So I think that
how would one access it? If I'm sitting at home, I want to access this money. What do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah. So you can Google some of these places. The easiest thing is to Google who has resources.
What would my Google search terms be?
Well, I mean,
college funding,
scholarship funding. There's places like FastWeb, which is a key one, and there's some others that we can even offer at a different point in time. And then on studentaid.gov, there's some information there about how to direct you. But that's one way. You can write your state representative. People don't ever do this, because your state representatives have access to capital that can possibly help people to gain funding to go to school. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 year, but any amount of money,
everything helps.
Counts, right?
Everything helps.
The D9, sororities, fraternities. There's a ton of money that they have. Every chapter has some money that can.
And you were a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Kappa Alpha Psi, the greatest organization there is.
we gotta let you rep your fraternity.
The greatest organization there is. But even organizations such as that, all the D9 do a great job of trying to support young people in school. So people have to do the work. I would say put a spreadsheet together, look at as many resources as possible.
You've given some great information.
Track when you can put that money in.
Where were you 29 years ago or something?
I didn't do it. I didn't know. And I think that we travel in this space of ignorance.
Right, we sure do.
But in the information age, we weren't in the information age.
We were not, no.
So when people say, I don't know, it's like you haven't tried. Though.
Right, you got to try. So. I mean, that is some really great practical advice. And, speaking of, you touched a moment on HBCUs. I know you are a proud Howard man, and as am I. Okay, so we have to. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows that.
Yeah, Howard represents. I mean, it's the Mecca. It's the first, and
I would love for you to talk a little bit about your experience at Howard University and what that meant for you. And then I'm gonna ask you some other follow-up questions of.
Yeah, I think for me it was interesting because I'm a first generation college student. So I went to Virginia Commonwealth University for my undergrad.
It's a majority school, right?
Yeah, it's a majority school, PWI, as people say. It was a great experience, but
where are you from? Let's talk about it.
I'm from Winchester, Virginia.
Okay.
I rep Winchester hard.
Okay, Winchester in the house.
Yeah, we'll put Winchester on the map at some point.
Put it in the map, baby.
Yeah.
Is that by the water in the center of the state? Where I'm not familiar.
It's like 70 some odd miles from here, west of here.
From DC?
From DC.
Okay.
Really not much around there, close to West Virginia.
Is it on the water? It's not on the water.
Well, it's close to the Shenandoah River, on the Shenandoah River.
I mean, Virginia is a beautiful state. I enjoy going to vineyards there, going to the beach there. I had no idea coming from New Orleans that there was a beach in the United States that was, I mean, I'm kind of ignorant, I guess. All we have is dirty water.
Yeah.
And Virginia Beach is, and the whole coast of Virginia is just is a beautiful place. A little bit of rough water at times, but it's a little cold, but it's still awesome.
Yeah, no, I love Virginia. And I grew up in kind of horse country. My grandparents were on the farm, so I spent a lot of time there. And so for me, I had never experienced an HBCU. One of my aunts went to Howard at one point, but that wasn't a big conversation for us. And so when I got out of VCU and I was home for a while, I was like, this is not, I went back home. And so going back home from college to my small town.
It's hard.
Oh man, it was arduous, right? So FEMA, I started working for FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, as a call center person. And that got me to DC. And then when I got to DC, I knew I needed to do something else to really improve my life.
Right.
And so
how old were you when you made a decision to go to Howard?
I was about 24.
Okay. 23
or 24 when I started grad school. And I remember even the first class, I took one class, pressure groups, which is basically like political organizations that lobby the government, right?
Okay.
And so that was because I have a PhD in political science. And so I took this pressure groups class and I wrote a cover letter for my first paper. Like, I ain't been in college in a long time, and this might not be the best writing, so please. And the professor, this is where Howard came in, right?
Okay.
There's a different sense of care.
Absolutely.
A different sense of engagement.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dr. Abdul Bangura was my first prof. Ended up sitting on my dissertation at some point later, but just it was a phenomenal experience.
It was you felt at home.
I did,
and as did I. I went to two HBCUs, Xavier University in New Orleans, as well as Howard for law school, and my experience at both is, and you know this as being an HBCU grad, just phenomenal. I'm going to use that word.
Yeah,
it was the best decision of my life, the best experience of my life, and I'm sure you feel similar about.
Yeah. It's the care and feeding, right? Like, so, it's different when you're older. So I didn't get the undergraduate experience, which I have some regret over, but I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
But going into grad school and definitely.
You made up for it.
In the area, I was there for a long time. So in the area.
It's hard to leave Howard, folks.
Oh, man.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's hard to get out sometimes, too. But the area of specification that I was in, like looking at American government, Black politics, public administration, those were my focus areas, because in PhD you have like 3 focus areas.
Okay.
I learned more than I ever knew about the people that I'm a part of, the community that I'm a part of, the greatness, the grandeur of people during times of bondage. Like, I didn't know some of the stuff that I learned, so I came out of there very, very different.
It's funny that you say that, because my mother is a history, she's retired now. She's a history professor. My father's a French professor. I learned a lot from them about our people, but I didn't learn anything about our people in school at the time.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to me, because I grew up in the South as well. I grew up in New Orleans, and I was in elementary school in the 80s. That's 20 years after the civil rights movement really had quote unquote ended. Yeah. There was not one word spoken about said civil rights movement. Yeah. And the only reason I know the things that I know, and I still learn some stuff every day, is because of my parents. So to say, and then I went to HBCU and I learned even more. Yeah. And that's the first opportunity that I had. So they really resonate with me when you talk about that. That, and you look on the wall behind you, you see we have our guys. But in particular, Mr. Thurgood Marshall, a Howard alumnus. And it's it really resonates to me with what you say, and it normalizes Black culture and Black history, when it should be a part of American history, and it is a part of American history. It is. But the HBCU just normalizes that and lets you know the greatness from which you come.
I think that. So the education aspect was one. The care and feeding was 2. The 3 is that I grew up in I had a great childhood. I had a great upbringing. I had a great school system that I grew up in. I never really realized that I was different.
That's awesome. What was the racial makeup of your?
I think about 5 or between 5 and 10% African American in my town. So obviously,
not a lot.
No, and some obvious. And I used to be in class sometimes the only African American student. And again, I felt it, but because I had grown up from like kindergarten with people, I didn't really realize it until like high school. Then I realized that maybe I was different.
Right, you're a little bit different. Right?
I'm a little different. But I was always like the kid, like the Black kid to some extent. Not ostracized, but definitely could feel that. Right. But when I went to Howard, even when I was an undergrad at VCU, I felt that sometimes in class. But when I went to Howard, you're no longer anything.
You're just Ray.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, there's something to be said for that, right?
Yeah. You don't want to have to like put the weight of everyone on your back.
Exactly. Explain why everybody's doing whatever they're doing.
When you have nothing to do with that.
You're a kid yourself. You have no idea. You have all these questions that are asked. My experience is somewhat similar. My first part of elementary school, and I was in a 99% Black school, right? But then our family moved when I was going into high school, and it changed to some of what you're talking about. So I can relate to both things. And then I ended up going back because of that experience. I think primarily I went back to HBCU because I want to just be Alfred.
Yeah,
so I can
find people that are just resonating with the quirks and the idiosyncrasies of me, right? Without it having to be defined by something that's
by your
exterior.
Race.
Yeah, I'm greater than that. Though I'm very proud.
Exactly, we are so proud.
But
that doesn't define us
as not at all.
As people necessarily.
Yeah.
But we are so proud. So you're from Virginia. Are both your parents from Virginia as well?
They are. My dad's from Upperville, Virginia, which is a one stoplight town. And then my mom is actually from Winchester. So, and they reside in Winchester still now. So
awesome. And so taking it back, because I always like to talk about the ancestors and our history here in this country and how we've been here for so long. And, it always comes to a point where for most of us, where we lose, we don't know up to we don't know up to a certain point.
Yeah.
How far back did you know? Because it seems like your folks been in the same area for a while. So you may be able to go back a little bit farther than some other people.
Well, my wife's family can go back. She's from Carolina, and they go back to the continent, right?
Wow.
I do not, right? So my
That's
mom's
amazing.
family is one of the biggest family names. Finley is their family name. They're one of the biggest family names in Winchester, and so I'm connected there. On my dad's side, not as far.
Okay.
My grandfather, Rush Crawford, is probably as far as I go back. His mother was named Irene, but I don't know anything beyond that. And so, this is a piece, right? I've been wanting to do the research,
right,
to kind of know who I am, so my children will know better,
right,
and what all is in our makeup.
Exactly.
It may not be exactly what I think it is
right.
when
most
the test
black
goes
people
through.
are wrong.
I don't know if there's Apache in there or something else. So it's like, I want to do that research because I think I owe it to my children and to people I haven't even met yet. Like my future grandchildren, my future people, right? Like I owe them a commentary, and specifically because my wife's family has done the due diligence.
Wow, that's amazing.
I can see it.
They can go all the way back to
their family union is 100 years old, so I can see what's possible when I go and interact with her folks, and I want to have some of that for some of both my cousins, my relatives, and most importantly for myself.
Now, just by your comments today, and I know just from knowing you that you are a family guy.
Yeah.
And family is important to you.
It's essential.
It's important to me as well. How do you see the black family in 2023, which is we're in the last month of 2023. This episode will air in 2024 as we talk about, but we're in 2023. So how do you see, because you are so involved. I know you personally. I know how involved you are in your children's lives and the strength that you have and your presence and that you're there all the time. But how do you see yourself, others, and how you're perceived at large? How do you see? I know I'm asking you to answer for all of us, but just what's your opinion?
Oh no, it's fine because I think it's necessary. So I'm a reflection of that which I know. So my grandparents were married 60 years. My parents been married 50 years.
That's amazing.
My grandfather is a pillar in my mind, as is my dad. So what manhood has been like. The example has been portrayed for me. And so it's necessary for me to give that to both my son and my son Cameron and my daughter Logan and my wife, Melissa. Like she needs to understand what a man is based on my conceptualization and my training, right? My community though, I don't see any bad brothers, right? So there may be them.
We know each other because we're black dads at the same.
We're black dads and we pick up from
That's
ballet.
how we met each other,
right? We pick up from ballet. So
the school that was founded to specifically teach young black girls
how to dance,
right?
83 years ago, right? So so that commentary is necessary, like because people
that history is necessary for people to know.
It is,
and we don't speak about it enough.
No, it doesn't it has no marketing plan, right? Because the commentary that talks about the dysfunction in our community is more popularized. But I don't know that. Like I don't speak about things that are
50
negative.
years and 60 years of marriage.
So that's what I understand.
There's nothing that's unimpeachable.
Yeah, and I understand that my grandma would say life ain't been no crystal stair.
Right.
So there are things that you have to work through in these relationships. There's no simplicity.
How long you been married?
Oh, it'll be 15 years in 2024.
All right.
Yeah.
My
so
man.
And 17 years together. And my wife is the better piece of me.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Yeah, we when I look at the lineup of brothers picking up, that's because we've been told.
Right.
Everybody
Dad's staying out in the cold. It's raining.
Hey, I'm picking up other people, little girls.
Right, you sure are.
But it's a beautiful scene.
It
it evokes so much joy in me just when I pull up. Right,
exactly.
Because it is a social narrative that is not common.
It's not common, but why not? And it should be. And it's not the exception, but the norm.
It is. It is. I mean, there's the CDC has said that Black fathers do more for their children than other groups, right?
Wow.
That's a CDC study. That
Right.
ain't even me. I mean, I can anecdotally say that because
Exactly.
I see it, but I'm glad they did the research that shows that to be true. But it's not, again, it's not a popular notion because it's counter to what people think has been normalized through a historical narrative that is off-putting, right? And
It's
that's-
off-putting, and we can trace, and it's deeper than we may go into. We have to have you back on part 2 to talk about the historical context of why that narrative even exists.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do want to talk about before you go is that I've been told by a little birdie that you are a poet. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
A Renaissance man. Okay.
well, I mean, for me, I'm an only child.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, you carve out space when you're only child to kind of just figure out life when there's no one to speak to.
Right.
So instead of speaking to yourself, you use a pen.
Wow. Right.
So
I mean,
that's been part of it. Yeah.
I've heard that you are not only a poet, but a prolific poet.
Oh, well, I don't know.
That's what I've been told.
Well, I mean, I got a good marketing plan about
Right.
here.
I've been told. Now, we didn't discuss this ahead of time, but I said to my co-creator before you came in, I said I have a guy who is apparently Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and Shakespeare all rolled into one.
Man. I mean,
Can you bless us with some bars?
Yeah. So I know this is all about hip hop, and hip hop is hip hop is poetry, right? I think often we just canonize it as some type of musical art form, but it starts with a pen and a piece of paper before the beat comes in. And so this piece that I brought with me today is just simply called hip hop.
All right, I'm ready.
Hip hop sound like life with a drum beat. With a drum beat, street come alive and rhyme like it got feet. Toe tapping, cats rapping about these days and times. What's happening through a colored boy's lenses? Eyes feed the mind, affect the senses. Sentences long and drawn out in prison. Imprisoned in 16 bars and a hook. Listen with the drum beat, street come alive. Live turning lines of elegance with irrelevance. All for the hell of it. They lust more and tell of it. With the boom bap bass. Place weight of worth on wares and whips, ice and chicks, you locked up in a ghetto comic strip. No superheroes in sight. Superheroes save the mic, breathe life into what they write, cause once it's written, lyrics ride the air when they escape the lips. It's power in the words you spittin', power in the drum you hittin', power like black ghetto rhythm can't hide me like the blues. I bubble over like a hot syrupy sweet and drip drop on a drum beat with a drum beat street come alive. In rhyme, brothers tell tales, travesty of the black male. Videoed running from the police or in the jail, but in the video you running from the police or in the jail and a sister shaking that tail feather. We can't do no better, can't do no worse, can't spit a verse without a lie or curse. We supposed to be first, but now we leading in last place. Society, class-based, singing songs of praise about pissy hallways and crack-infested corridors where kids are used to playing. Lyrics got kids used to saying grown-up words that disturb the peace. Preteens and adolescents need to be balanced, wasting talent, promoting balance and genocide. Ride or die? Ride or die? Not dead, because I can hear hip-hop heart beating like a drum with the drum beat street come alive, and like hip-hop I survive. Nourished by underground urban griots with Du Bois on their back and knapsacks packed with facts about backs when blacks were kings and queens, and Africa wasn't even Africa, it was just the beginning. Hip-hop sets off in the park, hit the drum, beating, hit a drum with the boom bap bass, hit a drum with the boom, hit a drum with the boom bap, clap, clap, clap your hands now, hit a drum with the boom, cars ride by with the boom and system, hit a drum, girl, the way you move me, got me in a trance, hit a drum, I like the way you move, hit a drum with the boom, hit a drum, we on a war tour with Muhammad, my man, hit a drum, hip-hop like, hip-hop like life, hip-hop like life, hear the drum beating. Word.
My man, that was amazing.
Thank
you for that. Thank you so much. I don't think there's any other questions I can ask after that. There's nothing I can follow up with that. Dr. Ray Crawford, I want to thank you so much for coming in. This was an amazing discussion. I hope that you will be a frequent guest on the Lawyers Happy Hour.
This is what's up, man. I appreciate it.
And I'm just speechless after hearing that, my brother. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. Please subscribe to this podcast. It's available everywhere, including Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. New episodes are released on the 12th of each month, and if you'd like to see the video version of any interview, they can be found on my YouTube page at the Lawyers Hip Hop Happy Hour. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you on the B-side.